Well, we're very pleased to be joined here in studio by Deputy Minister of Finance, Mr. David Masondo, as we, of course, continue to pay tribute and remember the late Governor Tito Mboweni's contribution in totality to South Africa. Deputy Minister, thank you so much for joining us. On such a sad note, though, welcome to SA Today. So what was your reaction when you first heard the news of the passing of the former governor?
No, thanks, Alicia, and good afternoon to you viewers. It was very sad. I got the news last night. I couldn't believe it. I thought, am I dreaming? What's going on here? And then the second family member called, and I said, indeed, he's no more. But let me take this opportunity also to convey my condolences to the Mboweni family, his friends, and to South Africa, because indeed, it's not only a loss to the Mboweni family, it's a loss to the world.
Deputy Minister, now you obviously have a history of working very closely with Mr. Mboweni as your department head there. Talk to us about your professional relationship. How was he at the helm of managing everybody in the office in terms of his persona, in terms of his professionalism? Talk to us about that.
You know, Alicia, I was very fortunate that it was beyond the professional relationship. I mean, he was my leader, and he was writing a memo of his own.
Yes.
And he said, David, can you give your comment, your feedback on what I have written? And unfortunately, it's not yet published. And of course, the family, the property now belongs to the family. We've got to have a conversation with the family on how that memo should be published and be shared with the public, because there's a lot there that South Africans should know. But working with him was a great honor. Very, very honest leader. And he had no rank consciousness. He didn't care whether you are at that rank in the treasury. He listened to your logic, and he will debate with us. And I think he led also in a very, very difficult time during COVID, when the economy took a big dip and our revenue also went down significantly. But even under those conditions, he said it's important for us to make sure that our debt levels are at the right level. And for him, the issue about debt was not an issue. We can borrow, but he always asked, can the economy afford to service that debt?
The tough questions.
And what are you borrowing for? And as you know, he was very critical of the government borrowing to recapitalize SOEs that were not performing well, and also posing a systemic risk to the economy, like Eskom. Like SAA, Transnet. He was very, very critical of that. In his view, the SOEs has a very, very important role to play, but they need to be managed properly so that they don't become a burden on the fiscals. And he was very, very tough on SOEs so that we keep our debt levels at the right level.
So it was always cracking the whip when it was time there. Deputy Minister, you talk about how we navigated the country through, of course, COVID times. But I mean, let's look back at the 2007-2008 financial crisis. We understand he contributed immensely to the financial sector in the country by steering the country through that treacherous terrain, as you say there. He really, really was critical of overspending and spending that didn't amount to any productive use and measures.
Yeah, so at that time, as a Reserve Bank governor, I think he was concerned about inflation, that if the prices of goods in the economy, goods and services, go up, it means that your purchasing power gets eroded with prices going up,
Absolutely.
it means your money can only buy a few things. So he set up the inflation targeting to make sure that we protect the poor as well, because if the prices are up and the poor can't buy bread, they can't buy their necessities, they will starve, poverty will deepen. But if our prices are very high, we can also compete with the world. When we're producing things here, and if they become too expensive, it means we won't be able to sell them in the global market. And if we fail to sell, it means that companies won't be making profits, and the consequences are quite dire. So he was very concerned about the inflation, but also on the stability of the financial sector. That is why he was also quite central in introducing what we call the Twin Peaks system, in which we have the Conduct Authority under the Financial Sector Conduct Authority as we have it today, responsible for protecting me and you against the conduct of banks, insurance companies, but also the Prudential Authority, which is responsible for making sure that the money that you deposit, you'll definitely get it. The banks ought to have certain capital adequacy ratio so that when you're looking for your money, at least you'll have it. So he was very central in making sure that on the conduct side, but also on the prudential side, our financial sector is intact.
Deputy Minister, in closing, I mean, what lessons have you learned from him and have also assimilated into your role as you continue serving as Deputy Minister in the financial department? Let's talk about that. And also, I mean, we understand that he still contributed immensely to society, even after he departed from his official duties in Parliament. We understand many well-known scholars have hailed him as an exceptional mentor who went above his call of duty to assist others and was a selfless individual.
The only thing I didn't learn from him is cooking. I don't think his cooking was that good, but he will always say, the problem is not my cooking, it's your taste buds. I said, no, your cooking is really, really not. But he really insisted that any policy position that you put it out there, it must be properly researched, and young people need to be interested in education, because
Absolutely.
You can only lead better if you understand how things work, how the economy works, how politics work, how the world works in general, whether it's South Africa or globally. And he really, really insisted. He will give you things to read, and he say, here's a book, let's have a conversation tomorrow. And he was very, very a good mentor, and he mentored through insisting on reading. And he would say, no, if you haven't read this, I'm not going to have a conversation with you. You had to read first, and then we had a good... So I really learned a lot about rigor in the work that you do in order to avoid rhetoric and slogans. He was very dismissive of slogans. He took intellectual work very serious. And it's not by accident that Mandela also picked him up into his cabinet, because right in the mid-80s, he was studying economics, contributing to the ANC's economic policy views.
Through the labor, yes.
He was very critical of, in the economic policy formulation, the Ready to Govern document that we heard, which was the policy document by the ANC. He was very central in that. And the recent one was the economic strategy that National Treasury adopted. And in that policy document, he said, it's important for us to open up the energy market to ensure that it's not only Eskom that provide electricity, but other private sectors, private companies that are interested in generating energy. Let's have them there. I mean, we've got 200 and something days without load shedding. Tito Mboweni has a huge contribution towards that by allowing different private sector people to generate energy, so that we don't only rely on Eskom and that has had a huge contribution in reducing the demand on Eskom, whilst Eskom itself played a major role in sorting out its coal power performance. So he really, so his legacy, we are feeling it today. And it's a legacy that doesn't start when he's a governor, when he's the Minister of Labor or a Minister of Finance. It starts way back when he took a decision and then said, I'm going to fight for liberation in this country.
And speaking of liberation, I mean, the current government makeup of the Government of National Unity, what can you tell us about some of his contributions there that have led to, you know, some of the policies that he might have drafted actually being part of the new administration?
So one of the key things in the Government of National Unity statement of intent is the structural reforms, which is about dealing with the supply side constraint on our economy. I've just spoken about supply of electricity, freight, logistics, telecommunications, skills, water. Tito Mboweni conceptualized that, and he said in order for us to grow the economy, it's important that we deal with this supply side constraint. And the Government of National Unity has adopted the program which we call the structural reform under Operation Vulindlela. It's run by National Treasury under the leadership of President Cyril Ramaphosa. So the GNU will be carrying out that program, which has been conceptualized by Tito Mboweni.
A very quick one, Minister. I know you started by extending your condolences to the family, but as, of course, a former a cadre and comrade, as you served in the same party with him, your parting words once again to his industry colleagues, to the ANC, and, of course, to the family. One more time, very quickly.
Let's build on his legacy. We don't have freedom yet. We've got better conditions for us to continue the struggle for freedom in South Africa and the world. May the soul of Tito Mboweni rest in peace, and we shall be forever be grateful to his contributions to South Africa and the world.
Deputy Minister, great having you with us in studio. Thank you so much. That is Deputy Minister of Finance, Mr. David Masondo, in studio here with us, also just sharing some of his sentiments on the passing of the former Reserve Bank Governor Tito Mboweni.